Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Side. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. सदस्यमान भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय। रामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glory to the Lord. All glory to
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, ma.
Hari Hari, Hari Go.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You are welcome to our platform again today. We are very happy to have you, ma.
Haribo, we have a surprise for you. We have a surprise for you today.
Oh, please give us a surprise.
Yes, both Ekavira Prabhu and myself will be giving the class today.
Thank you very much, ma, for bringing Prabhuji.
Haribo.
So please, the verse is shared on the screen. Maybe we can start, ma. More devotees will join as we continue.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, text 33. I'm going to chant the Sanskrit verse. Do we repeat? I think I asked this the last time, or just go through the verse? You're on mute.
If we have to repeat, there may be echo, except if you want one devotee to repeat one after the other. We can just unmute one devotee to repeat if you want.
Okay, we'll just do the Sanskrit and just keep going because it might be a little more.
Okay.
Amayo yascha bhutanam jayate yena suvrata tadevahi amayam dravyam na punati chikitshitam. Amaya, Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. Okay, I'm going to read it from here. O good soul, does not a thing applied therapeutically cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing? Srila Prabhupada's purport. An expert physician treats his patient with a therapeutic diet. For example, milk preparation sometimes causes disorder of the bowels, but the very same milk converted into curd and mixed with some other remedial ingredients cures such disorders. Similarly, the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized, just as by fire, iron is made hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the source, that is the spirit, that is the secret of spiritual success. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. Everything is an emanation from the Supreme Spirit, and by his inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Therefore, a material thing, so-called, is at once turned into a spiritual force by the great will of the Lord. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so-called matter in the service of the spirit. That is the way to treat our material diseases and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane where there is no misery, no lamentation, and no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there is nothing except the supreme Brahman. The Vedic mantra that everything is Brahman is thus realized by us. So the translation again is, "O good soul, does not a thing apply therapeutically, cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing?" Om Gyana Timirandasya Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatya Deshatarine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Tinamine Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hari Hari Bol. So Ekavira Prabhu is going to start the class and then we will continue. And so the verse again is, "O good soul, does not a thing apply therapeutically, cure a disease which was caused by that very same thing?"
Nitai Gora, Haribo devotees, and Kabi Kanapon Prabhu. It was so good to see you. And Radhakund, it's really nice. Loki Devi, Nitai Gora. No, as Rajalila said, it's a surprise and a shock. It's so good to see the devotees here. I remember when Rajalila and I first went to Mayapur and we saw devotees from West Africa. And she hadn't seen devotees from West Africa in many, many years. And it was so, so nice. And it just made me think about coming on today, made me think about that. And I recall when the devotees saw her in the distance, or both of us in the distance, and they started running. And I said, "Oh, wow, so nice." And I stepped out in front of Rajalila, and the devotees, they ran past me and paid obeisances to Rajalila. And so I looked, I said, "Oh, well, that isn't the exact what I was expecting, but Rajalila is mother in West Africa because she spent so many years actually serving in West Africa. And I haven't had the opportunity to travel to West Africa physically, but today I'm having this opportunity coming through the Zoom Zoom program here. And so in this verse, there is an analogy that is being used, and it's the analogy of the physician using milk. And the same item which causes distress, can actually be used to purify or to assist one in with a particular condition. And so that particular analogy is most suitable for curing someone, especially if one is trained in Ayurveda or naturopathy. I know, like in Ayurveda, there's a use of even poison to cure certain illnesses. Rajalila and I had that experience in Vrindavan, going through some treatment where we spent every waking hour of the day drinking water and drinking poison. They didn't call it poison, of course. It was called special item number 3, I believe it was. Special item number 3. But it was the nastiest stuff that I ever could remember. And naturopathy. I remember this one particular doctor. It's okay. This one particular doctor, Dr. Batman Gelich, I studied some of his theories. He was a cardiologist, and of course, and he treated many people, over 500 patients, with just the use of water. And so he was treating patients with hypertension, high blood pressure, and he was treating them with salt. And of course, those who have hypertension, the first thing they tell you is to limit your salt or stop taking salt in your diet. And of course, in this particular case, he would use a certain amount of salt and water. And this was the cure for hypertension. Of course, the salt was not really the problem. The problem was that, or is, the body is dehydrated. And so the water was actually the cure. And so salt was used along with the water to provide this relief. And so Srila Prabhupada expresses in this purport the threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. There must be some remedial ingredients that helps to cure the disorder. And so the threefold miseries we know, the Adi Bhautit, Adi Atmat, and Adi Daivik, 3 miseries that come upon us, even if we don't desire for these particular miseries to actually come upon us. Mamaivam to jiva loke. And so Krishna expressed that in the Bhagavad Gita, that these part and parcels, we are all fragmental portions of the Supreme Lord. And there's this hard struggle in material existence. And so this hard struggle, what is this hard struggle with? The 6 senses, and it includes the mind. And so the mind, this is something that's so challenging for each and every one of us, especially during periods of time like now. Throughout the world, it's affecting probably every square mile on the globe is this COVID-19 pandemic. And we see how it's wreaking havoc through so many different areas. And of course, in our Vaishnav community, we've actually lost, great devotees due to this particular pandemic. And I remember there was this one particular pastime or one morning walk that Srila Prabhupada was on. I was looking for something relative to this pandemic. So I was looking, of course, in America, there's this discussion about vaccinations. So I was trying to see something which Srila Prabhupada expresses something relative to these vaccinations, something that's relevant to us in our practice of Krishna consciousness on a day-to-day basis. And of course, he was expressing that Krishna is the vaccination to remove fearlessness. And, you know, Srila Prabhupada's his name, Abhay Charan, you know, exemplifies, he exemplified that characteristic, absolute fearlessness. But he's expressing that Krishna is this vaccination which instills fearlessness. And then I'll just share this one point. He says, fearlessness because a devotee means one who has taken shelter of Krishna. He's a devotee, he's fearless. And one who has not taken shelter of Krishna, how can he be fearless? Suppose there is an epidemic disease. If you've got a vaccination, then you can remain fearless. Otherwise, this epidemic can contaminate, and then you have to suffer. So Krishna is the vaccination to remove fearlessness. And so, of course, in our application and our movements and throughout society, we understand that, you know, of course, Krishna is the ultimate cause of all causes. We understand that Krishna is the goal of all of our endeavors to connect with Krishna. At the same time, Krishna also gives intelligence that's relevant to, as we were saying, this vaccination, to utilize whatever is necessary for the care of all of the gifts in which he actually gives. And one of those gifts is our yanta, the human form of life, the body, the material body. And so even before this pandemic took place, the world was plagued with an epidemic, something that has spread and again touched all of those who have taken birth in the material world. And what is that epidemic? That epidemic is the forgetfulness of Krishna. And so we're encouraged, you know, in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 7, text 6, Bhakti Yogam Ahoksaje. And so we understand that there, from this verse, it expresses that there are material miseries of the living entities. And it can be mitigated by the linking process of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. And so, but the unfortunate thing is the mass of people do not notice, they're not aware. And so, therefore, the learner Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature. So that which we are speaking from today is the result of Srila Vyasadeva's understanding through his spiritual master, Narada Muni, the material condition, the epidemic that spread it throughout the entire material creation. And to mitigate that disease, we find that he has written Srimad Bhagavatam. So again, we're talking about this pandemic specifically. So how how is it relevant to us, this particular pandemic? Again, I was thinking about this pandemic and how persons that were near and dear to us. And our relationship has changed because the pandemic was the cause in which they actually left the planet. We just had one really special devotee that we shared so many years with in the Washington, D.C. area, the wife of Trikalagya Prabhu, Tungavidya Mataji. And they had such desire to actually take shelter of one of the 5 most potent forms of Bhakti Yoga, and that's to dwell in the holy Dham. They had such a strong desire to actually do that. They did service for many years in Delhi and came to America and raised their family in America, and then desired to go back to the Dham and continue to do devotional service there and serve the devotees and serve the Dham. And so they did. And she went there, and of course, over time, she contracted the COVID-19 virus. And then, yeah, she was cured of it. And then eventually she contracted it again. And so, you know, it's a very serious situation, no matter how it actually came about. It's a very situation that is each and every one of us may have to face, and prayerfully, we don't have to face it in the way in which, you know, some of our devotees who have departed had to face it. So, but the point that I wanted to make in regards to the pandemic is, as horrific as it actually is, it also has provided a means in which, through technology, we have been able to engage in bhakti yoga, and that's hearing and the glories of the Lord, especially like hearing the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. By this means of technology, and through the course of the, you know, the nature of what's going on at this point in time, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to travel to West Africa to have the association of Gabi Kandapur and Radhakun and Kusha. Kusha was here. Oh, he's here. Okay. Kusha's here too. Wonderful. And so, again, yeah, there he is. Haribo. Yeah, Loka and Sahadev. And so, yes, through this use of the technology, we are given this opportunity to have Krishna Katha, to have the association of the devotees. And then Srila Prabhupada speaks about that in the purport, making the best use of a bad bargain. There's no doubt that this particular pandemic is a bad bargain. And it is at the same time, the best use of this bad bargain is to take shelter of each other, take shelter of the holy names and Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srila Prabhupada expressed also in the purport that the material activities cannot be mitigated by material activities. And why can't they be mitigated by material activities? He also expresses the reason and how to actually mitigate material activities. And he expresses that they must be spiritualized. And yes, the activities must be spiritualized. So this conception of seeing things as material, seeing things as some things as material, and some things as spiritual. Well, Srila, in the Shatur Sloka, the second verse of the Shatur Sloka, Krishna expresses to Brahma that Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is not in relationship to me, know that to be my external energy. And so that is the vision in which Vaishnavas see the actual things that take place in the world and see everything in the material world, that they see it in relationship to the Lord, see it in relationship to Krishna. And so sometimes we hear the term that, okay, we have to spiritualize our activities. But do we really spiritualize our activities? Do we really spiritualize our activities? Well, Srila Prabhupada also expresses in this particular verse that by the Lord's inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter and matter into spirit. And so it's the Lord that is actually, converting or spiritualizing everything. We are endeavoring to actually think of Krishna through consciousness, think of Krishna, think of everything as in relationship to Krishna. Everything is actually coming and emanating from that one same Supreme Lord, Krishna. And so by a nature of our engagement of our consciousness, of seeing Krishna everywhere and in everything and in the hearts of everyone through the super soul, the Paramatma, then Krishna is pleased by us and helps us to remember him. So in this verse, was this the last? Yeah, actually, it was the last verse, text number. We're reading text 33, but in text 32, Srila Prabhupada made a couple of points that I thought were relevant to this point here. That by his inconceivable power, he can convert spirit into matter, matter into spirit, and he's expressing that we must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of the Lord. We must therefore dedicate our attempts to the mercy of the Lord for ultimate success, or to get rid of the obstacles on the path of success. Then he said it again in the next sentence. We should therefore learn to dedicate our activities unto the mercy of the Lord and accept him as impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, the Supreme Personality Godhead. It does not matter what one is, one must dedicate everything into the service of the Lord. And I thought that this was like such a, really sweet way in which he's expressing this. He's saying, we must dedicate our attempts to the mercy of the Lord. The Lord spiritualizes everything. The Lord actually engages, picks us up from our particular position. And that's due to the mercy, connecting to the mercy of the Lord. And so how do we actually connect with the mercy of the Lord, dedicating ourselves to the mercy of the Lord? First and foremost, by giving up this desire to control, and Srila Prabhupada speaks about that in this verse, giving up this concept that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer. Isvaraham Maham Bhogi, that I am the center of the universe. And so again, how do we actually connect with the mercy of the Lord? It's expressed in so many different times and so many different places. The mercy of the Lord is given primarily through the Guru Parampara, Eva Parampara Praptam, and our spiritual master. And so that mercy is coming down through disciplic succession, through our spiritual master. And by the engagement of the process of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we can actually dedicate ourselves or dedicate our activities unto the mercy of the Lord. And, Srila Prabhupada, he was such an example of crying out in engagement of the service to his spiritual master and in service to the Guru Parampara, and in an engagement in that particular service, while engaging in that service, crying out for the mercy of the Lord. He exemplified this before he even came to the West and the Sri Sri Radha Damodar temple. Each and every day, when everyone is asleep and things are so quiet, and Srila Prabhupada's in the courtyard, Srila Rupa Goswami, and he's sweeping the dust of Vrindavan in this courtyard and constantly crying out to Rupa Goswami, I've been given such a very difficult service in spreading the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by my spiritual master. Please, please give me your mercy. Please give me your mercy. And so he exemplified this mood in crying out and dedicating his activities to the mercy of the Lord and the Lord's representatives to the Guru Parampara. And so, VRAJALILA, I don't want to continue to speak. we want VRAJALILA to actually continue on.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yes, and so utilization of connecting to the mercy of the Lord while utilizing those particular things that we have in our midst in the service of the Lord. In Gita Nagari, one of the features of Gita Nagari, when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was present here, was his example of utilizing everything in the Lord's service. I remember one particular time there was a Gaudiya, well, not a Gaudiya Vaishnava, just Sri Vaishnava, and he was visiting. It was on Saturday. He came to Gita Nagari, and when he came, the devotees were gathering to go out on a bike ride, and we would get all of the bikes in the neighborhood, and I would go to different areas, to yard sales and thrift stores, and buy bicycles and have them at Gita Nagari. And then on this day, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would gather all the devotees, and we'd get on bicycles and go ride out into the neighborhood. And so the Sri Vaishnava, he saw this, he's like, wow, this is interesting. I've never seen devotees of the Lord engaging in activities like this. And so we got a bike. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj said, hey, Egabir, give him a bike. And so we got a bike for him. And he rode with the devotees, and then he came back, and the devotees honored Prasad, and after they honored Prasadam, then we had Kirtan and Shri Radha Damodar temple, and then class, and then he saw that same person that was directing or leading all of the devotees on this bike ride, sitting down in this sannyas garb, and giving class. And he was like, isn't this the same? He's a sannyasi? How is this? And I speak about this because, he expressed to me, he's telling me in retrospect, it was a couple of years after this event, he's talking to me. He said, I grew up as a Vaishnava, and I never really realize how you could actually have fun in the association of the devotees, and this can be done in a way that is Krishna conscious. And he said, it just has such an impact on me that I always remember this. And then later on, he took Diksha from Radharaman Maharaj, in Vrindavan. And then, of course, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, again, many of the children here in Gita Nagari Dham, they reflect on the times in which he would go out and ride on the bicycles. And then in the wintertime, right now, it's the wintertime, it's like 16 inches of snow in Gita Nagari. And he would go out on the hills with the children and sled and riding down this snow. And again, the children, they had so much fun. And then afterwards, we go inside and we'd have kirtan and prasad, and he'd speak. And the children would just be sitting there in rapt attention, listening to him, because he had already captivated their hearts. And so by doing so, and using this certain activities as a means by which to give Krishna consciousness, he had captured their hearts. And to this day, 30 years later, many of them still remember that time and express that this was some of the most memorable times that they had in their process of bhakti. So,
yeah.
Tagore.
Yeah. You want to close it?
No.
Finish it?
So yes, we'll
Let's finish what you're talking about.
So yes, the utilization of everything in Krishna's service, and so Rupa Goswami, he expresses through the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, of course, Krishna's Sambandhe, understanding that everything can be utilized in the Lord's service and should be utilized in the Lord's service. And so we asked Rajalila to speak more about, the utilization of everything in the Lord's service.
So thanks, Ekavir Prabhu. I mean, we invited Ekavir because we know that, devotees are just so kind, and I know that they would have been happy to hear from him. And because he's not really someone that speaks so much, he tends to like be in the background. And I thought, well, this verse, it's kind of relates to Grihastas in a lot of ways. We can understand it from that perspective. How devotees can renunciation in one sense, this whole entire verse. And Ekavira, he covered it so deeply. And so there's not much else to say about it. However, I do want to kind of bring a perspective from the Grihastas, because when we talk about engaging everything in Krishna's service, sometimes that can be a little bewildering, for people that are married, because they're thinking, how do we do that? How do we engage everything in Krishna's service? And so as I was thinking about this, of course, there's practical examples of how we do this. And these are some of the points I think that are important. They can give a lot of the philosophical understanding about engaging everything in Krishna's service. However, I think it was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, this disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to teach us detachment from whatever doesn't encourage us in Krishna consciousness. Whatever it is that's not helping our Krishna consciousness, those things we know, as Ekavir Prabhu was sharing, by the mercy of the Lord, we pray. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj also prayed like that. Whatever it is that's not going to help me in serving you, dear Lord, please take it away. So we pray like that. We have this prayer. And this is especially applicable for Grihastas, because oftentimes, most of us, we need to interact with the world in so many ways. And so there's also that other part of Grihasta life where you might have the one of the persons, either the husband or the wife, that may be more in a renouncing mood. One that thinks, oh, I need to give everything to Krishna. Excuse me, I'm just going to drink a little water. Thanks. So sometimes a husband or a wife, it could be either, can think, this Grihasta life is not really giving me the maximum taste for Krishna consciousness. So therefore, I'm going to renounce this Grihasta life. And that can come in many different ways, how a Grihasta thinks to renounce. For example, you can have a male in the home that thinks, well, I want to give everything to Krishna. So as a result, I won't give affection to my wife. I won't give attention to my wife. I won't somehow or other engage in mutual connection with my wife, because then I'm not offering everything to Krishna, right? Because then I'm being diverted by my wife, or vice versa. I'm not saying it's just that it's just males that go through that. Either way, so in Grihasta life, it's really, really important to understand that the husband and the wife are both, they're gifts from God. They're gifts from Krishna. And the whole purpose of Grihasta life is to be able to serve each other in this mood of understanding that everything belongs to Krishna. This is what the verse is saying. Everything emanates from Krishna. Everything comes from Krishna, where everything is connected to Krishna. So therefore, the duty of the husband and the wife is to be able to assist each other in encouraging each other, inspiring each other, keeping each other enthusiastic in how to offer everything that comes in their midst to the service of the Lord, to pleasing Krishna. So therefore, the duty of the wife is to inspire the husband to please Krishna. And the duty of the husband is to inspire the wife to please Krishna. Now, how do we do this? In a practical way. So there's the pastime. Well, let me just give these verses because these are important. I can get quite a few. There is this verse in the Bhagavad Gita. This is Bhagavad Gita 6, in the 6th chapter, 1 and 2. It says, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who work as he's obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is a true mystic, not the one who lights no fire and perform no duty. So Prabhupada tells us, okay, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, yes, one has to engage in service. One has to engage in some activities. And then Prabhupada continues, what is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga or linking oneself with the Supreme, sort of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So this is Prabhupada explaining that we do need to become conscious of what is sense gratification. That is disconnecting us from this mood of real renunciation, yukta vairagya, engaging everything in Krishna's service, not phalu vairagya. It's two types of vairagya, right? Phalu vairagya is kind of false. It's a pretender. It's a show bottle. It's like acting like, oh yeah, I'm this great, we're these great grihastas. And you know what? I'm so disconnected from my wife and my children. I'm so much attached to reading the sastras, and I'm so much attached to being a scholar. That is what sometimes we might think makes a good grihasta. However, Krishna is saying, no, actually, that's not necessarily, what makes a person a good grihasta. A good grihasta is someone that is understanding yukta vairagya, how to engage everything in Krishna's service, whatever it may be. So if a husband has a wonderful job, or if a wife has a wonderful job, how do we engage that job, that work in the service of Krishna? What can we do? What can we do to engage that in the service of Krishna? So this is one aspect. So in work, what we can do is we can give in charity, right? And we need to be conscientious to be able to give in charity, not in the mode of passion or ignorance, but at least yogis, persons that are developing in Krishna consciousness, need to understand how to give in the mode of goodness, where we give and we're not expecting anything in return. This is very important for grihastas. It's Prabhupada says actually to give 50. Rupa Goswami says 50%, and then I believe there's somewhere it says 10% of whatever one earns. So we're saying don't focus on the percentage. Focus on giving to please Krishna. Focus on giving so that we can fulfill our spiritual obligation of utilizing everything in Krishna's service. So although these verses about renunciation usually refers to yogis, they actually are very important for the devotees of the Lord to understand, because yukta vairagya is a principle that's given to us by Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami is giving us these principles so that we can implement them in our lives. It's not just that we can understand them. However, we need to know how to practicalize these this principle of yukta vairagya. So I believe it was this person, Kurma Brahmana. It was a Kurma Brahmana who begged Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my dear Lord, kindly show me the favor and let me go with you. He wanted to travel with Lord Chaitanya. And he said, I can no longer tolerate the waves of miseries caused by materialistic life. So this Brahmana, he was attracted to Lord Chaitanya. So many people are attracted to Lord Chaitanya. And so he definitely, just as we do sometimes, we get so attracted to our spiritual masters, we want to give up everything and just go with the spiritual master. Or even if it's not just a physical go with the spiritual master, it may be that we are emotionally, mentally with the spiritual master. However, we may do that at the expense of being neglectful to other important duties in our lives, in some cases. Not to say, and again, for clarity, definitely we need to be attached to our spiritual masters, because our spiritual teachers, our spiritual mentors, because the association of the devotees, because that is the way we make spiritual advancement. I think yesterday we were talking about this, how Krishna, he comes as time. However, even the time factor will not interfere with our materialistic desires. Even Krishna has a time factor. So these materialistic desires, they go with us lifetime after lifetime, because they're in our subtle consciousness. And so therefore, it is important to be attached to the spiritual master and to the devotees, because they are the ones that help us to understand how to become detached from these materialistic desires that may be there, continuous for lifetime after lifetime. So this, again, back to this Brahmana, Lord Chaitanya replied, don't speak like that again. Better return home. Better you return home and chant the holy names of Krishna always. This is in the VRAJALILA. So the point of this verse is for grihastas to understand how to engage their children, how to engage their husbands, how to engage their work, whatever it is that they do, how to engage their foods, how to engage their austerities, how to engage their worship, how to engage their what's another one that we have in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, teaches us about all the different things that we might want to engage in Krishna's service, and to understand how to engage those things, not contaminated by the modes of material nature, how to engage those things in the mood of what Rupa Goswami is encouraging us to do, Yukta Vairagya, knowing that it all belongs to Krishna anyway. None of it belongs to us. The only thing that can separate us from, the only thing that is separating us from offering it to Krishna in a pleasing way is our affection for Krishna. Our perception of everything is usually based on ourselves, right? That's basically our perception. When that perception is changed to understanding that everything that is there, our own body, our own minds, we talked about that, the three kleshas, the mind and how it affects us, everything is actually owned by the Supreme Lord, Sri Upanishad. Everything is owned by the Lord. And so therefore, what is it that we really own? What do we really own? We don't own anything. So therefore, we can only be taught how to develop that consciousness that it all belongs to Krishna. And especially in the Grihastha ashram, that is really, really important, that we learn to offer each other to Krishna. You know, like if Ekavira is acting in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance, how can I understand through the mercy of Krishna, the mercy of Krishna's devotees, to encourage him in a way that he can be offerable to Krishna? If I'm acting in the mode of passion, ignorance, even goodness, you know, how can he encourage me so that I can be more offering myself in Sudasattva, in pure goodness? How can he encourage me in that way? So this is the mood. This is what our mentors are teaching us. This is what our gurus are teaching us. Not that we have this mood of, oh, this is not good. This is, I shouldn't do this, or I shouldn't engage. I shouldn't engage in playing with my children. I shouldn't engage in giving affection to my wife. Or my wife shouldn't engage in, serving the husband. No, if we understand, everything belongs to Krishna. My husband belongs to Krishna. My children belong to Krishna. The best I can do is learn how to offer them to Krishna. So I just wanted to share this point because Grihastha life is so important for our mission. It's so important for our Krishna consciousness. It's so important for helping others. Most of the world are people that are either married or will be getting married. So unless we have exemplary grihastas, unless we have persons that can show how to engage everything in Krishna service and to do that joyfully. It's because Krishna consciousness is joyfully performed. If we're not able to do that, then it's a discredit to Srila Prabhupada and to us spiritual masters, because the whole mood, the whole mission, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us with the Kurma Brahmana that, it starts at home, whether that home is with each other or the home within ourselves, that we need to start, connecting within ourselves to understand. Even me, I need to understand I am to be offered to Krishna. Everything I do is to be offered to Krishna. Starts first with me. And we extend that. So I just wanted to share that. Ekavir shared a lot. And that was the whole purpose. And the whole purpose is that, this verse is a verse where we are to encourage each other to understand we are servants. We're servants of our spiritual master. We're servants. And so the best way we can encourage each other as servants is to serve together. So this is what we're doing. And so we thank you so very much for allowing us this great opportunity. I want to express our deep sadness, our deep lamentation for Harilila and his child. And I don't know what's going on with his wife. Speaking of utilizing everything in Krishna's service, our internet, we live in the country, and it's actually in some ways like when I first went to Africa. Now Africa is not like this, but when I first went there wasn't much access to anything material in terms of, I don't know, we did have phones, I guess. I don't remember. I mean, we did have phones, but it wasn't so much. Now Africa is just like any place else. However, where we live in Gitanagari. Yeah, except Gitanagari. Where we live in Gitanagari, you have a big snowstorm, which we just had. Everything goes out, everything. And you can't even get somebody to come to your house because they're not going to come. So we had this big, huge snowstorm, and our internet went out, right? We had no internet for like 3 days. And we're like, whoa, talk about engaging everything in Krishna's service. How important is the internet for Krishna's service? And when you don't have the internet, you got to really go internal, because then you're just with yourself and you're just with your husband or you're just with your wife, and you got to think, okay, Krishna, what am I to learn from this? And so, so I was sharing this, that in Africa, I'm sorry, I'm going back to Harilila Prabhu and his family. I don't know the condition of his wife right now, and we would like to know. However, this family, although, Krishna has somehow called her husband and child, they're teaching us so much just by their disappearance from this world. They're teaching the beauty of what family life was and service in family life. And so we will have the memories of these devotees to remind us how they engage themselves and how they engage everything that they had in Krishna's service. This is the beauty of devotees. We learn from them, whether they're on the planet or they're not on the planet. What can we learn? So in this case, Yukta Vairagya, they're engaging themselves so much that they're traveling just to be with devotees, just to associate with devotees, just to share themselves with devotees. This is our dharma. This is what we're really to do. Whether we're grihastas, whether we're brahmacharis, whether we're sannyasis, whatever it is, let's not practice falu vairagya, false, pretentious renunciation. Let's practice yukta vairagya, offering everything in Krishna's service. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
We really appreciate your lecture, both Prabhuji and Mataji. We really appreciate, and I'm very sure devotees, they have a lot of questions for you. Kusha Prabhu is here. He's very always enthusiastic to ask questions, so he will be asking his question. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Madam Prabhu, Mamula Besansis.
Everybody talks about your backdrop. So now, so somehow, I don't know, but the image that came to me, because everything is about perception, is I am thinking of Kailash and Lord Shiva. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know where your picture is,
This is Tyrol, Austria.
Ah, Austria. Wow, they must be interconnected with the Himalayas somehow.
Yeah, somehow, I don't know. They have big mountain there. So I just want to say thank you for coming with Prabhu. I hope the Grihastas are learning how couples should preach together. My question is, you mentioned about using everything in Krishna's service, but as for married couples, how can they use their children in Krishna's service when the children are not even listening or want to be devotees? Can they force them? What about the free will of the children? And what responsibility is the father or mother when the children refuse to be devotees? They bring them to the world. Scripture says, don't become a father, a guru, or whatever, if you cannot take them back to Godhead. They make their efforts, but the children refuse. How will Krishna handle the parent that bring those children to the world?
Such a beautiful question, Krishna Prabhu, and so relevant to engaging everything in Krishna's service. Ekavir Prabhu, you want to share?
You talked about it first.
Okay. So we have, in our community, we're so very fortunate to have young children, young adults. And we have some young adults that are very, how do you say, they're really Krishna conscious. There's some other young adults here that they wake up in the morning chanting their rounds, they're studying the books, everything, they're just fully absorbed. I mean, seriously, 22, 23, 24. It's like a miracle, actually, in Kali Yuga. It's like a miracle to see that. Then we have other young adults here who, they're engaged in the world. They're working. Now they're not traveling so much, but they're just waiting for all of this to be over so they can start traveling again, right? They're traveling. They look at the parents and they look at the devotees and they think, yeah, it's okay, but I'm not interested. And so they're both a part of our community. So the active ingredient in both situations is to be able to lovingly encourage and inspire and uplift these young people, however we can do that. So the active ingredient is love, is care, to give care to the young people. So the ones that are interested in the world, so I'm speaking from my personal self because I'm godmother to a lot of these young people here. I'm many of the parents, because I was one of the older mother, I guess the older devotee, they always invited me to be the godparent of their children. So as the godparent of these children, I see what interests them. I encourage them in those things. So I have godsons that I have a godson that, he finished his master's degree. Now he's thinking of doing his PhD. And, he's living on his own, doing his thing, working. And, I just try to find out, he's a computer whiz. So I try to engage them in things that is relevant to them, things that they have interest in. I try to find out things they're interested in. I try to go to where they are. That is the mood of the gurus. That's the mood of the acharyas, right? The whole mood of Srila Prabhupada. He came to America to be with people that had no clue, no understanding. This is the compassion, the care. This is what Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj talks about. This is what Nabhichandra Maharaj talks about. It's all about compassionate care for people, whether they're accepting Krishna consciousness or not. I mean, the fact is, Krishna accepts them. Krishna accepts them. Krishna accepts all of us. So now they might be choosing a strategy that we don't agree with for their life. Yes, many are choosing strategies that we can say, look, that strategy is just going to take you more into, creating material desires. It's probably going to create more lifetimes, whatever. However, if we give them love and care, in my experience, it's just going to be a matter of time. For example, I have a goddaughter, and she's very intelligent. She graduated university. She's incredible. And she has no, not so much interest in Krishna consciousness, right? She just thinks that that for whatever the reasons are, that we're sectarian, which is something we need to change about how the perception of us being sectarian. She thinks that we're like controllers, which is what the verse is saying, don't try to control. And she thinks that, she just thinks that we're archaic. We don't really understand the world. So what I did recently is I called her because I was doing a program, and I know that she's expert in computer, and I thought she was going to say no, and I asked her. I said, "Would you be the tech person for this program that I'm going to be doing? Can you be a tech person for me, please? I need a tech person. I know she's good at it." And I thought she was going to say no, and she says, "Mother VRAJALILA, okay," she wanted to refuse me, but somehow her higher self, which she has, understands. Okay, she didn't refuse me, and she got involved. She got involved so much that I was like, oh my goodness. She took the whole thing and just like made it like we were like a panel of 7 devotees speaking about Grahastha life, and she was the person behind everything, just like you are, Kusha, and she did it with such enthusiasm. And guess what? We decided we were going to do, the program was so successful, we thought we would do it. We called her again thinking she's not going to do it, right? But then she did. And she just came through, and she's so intelligent. She can talk to all 7 people. She knows devotee life, so she knows how devotees think. You know what I mean? But she has her own life. She has her own world in one sense. So in a long version of what I said, the short version is, no matter where our children are, it is very important for us to show them love, care, affection, uplift them with our love and care. That's what they need. Everybody's looking for love. Everyone. So it's up to Krishna. It's up to Krishna. We can only do our best. And when we are like, this is communication. Whatever it is that we're seeing in someone that is causing us like real distress, where it's affecting us so much, that same thing is something we need to be dealing with in ourselves. Sometimes I remember once, and this is just being transparent, I remember once I was having some challenges as many of you know, I was previously married to a Kendra Prabhu who did so much service in West Africa. And we had some challenges, and I remember being a lot disturbed by some activities that was happening. And I went to my Guru Maharaj, and I shared with him, this person is doing this activity, and it seems to me like you're not saying anything about it. And so I was kind of, disturbed. And so then my Guru Maharaj said to me, he said, I just want you to check in with yourself and see if you're not just envious because you want to do the same thing. And so then I had to really think about that. So sometimes, there are some things that we become very disturbed about because sometimes we want to do those same things. And so, yeah. So so anyway, that's just my long and short, long answer. Sorry. I'm like the long-winded one in the family.
Yeah, I just reiterate that point. Loving encouragement, inspiration, and affection goes a long way. And you even made the point that it's not good to actually force a child to engage in certain things because it can have the adverse effect in which we want it to have. There's one great devotee. He grew up in Krishna consciousness, and for years it was so difficult for him to take Diksha. And he was sharing that, it's difficult for me to take Diksha because I have so much difficulty chanting at least 16 rounds per day. And I don't want to make a commitment through initiation and know that I'm having this difficulty. And we asked, is that, well, why do you have this difficulty? And he said that, you know, when I grew up and I was in the Gurukula, whenever we did something wrong, and he was really a bad boy, as he said, he got in trouble so often. And when he was punished, he was put into a corner and forced to chant Hare Krishna. And so in his mind, he associated, you know, punishment and Hare Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. And so he didn't want to chant Hare Krishna because, you know, it just is something that the association. And so this was something that was forced upon him. It was something done in the wrong way, something, the right thing, but done in the wrong way. And so by forcing someone, we have so many different examples and dealing with some of the godchildren that we have, where we have those who were forced to do certain activities as they grow older. They don't have much of a taste for the engagement in the service. And then we have those who their parents were an example of loving association and loving encouragement in the Grihastha ashram, and they have a very strong taste. So Krishna expresses that in the Bhagavad Gita, Yad Yadacharya Shreshtas. We, by the nature of our example, that's one of the greatest impact that we can make on our children, is being loving and encouraging, and also an example in our loving relationship with our spouse. And so by doing that, they see that Krishna consciousness is something that can be joyfully performed and joyfully performed in the Grihastha ashram. Thank you. Whoa, you got another backdrop.
Oh, look at that. Wow. Yeah, you can definitely see that Krishna is Vishnu. Vishnu is Krishna.
So thank you very much, Prabhu. We have His Grace Sukade Prabhu's hands is up. I don't know, maybe you are finished with Kusha Prabhu's question.
Yes.
Is Kusha finished with us?
Yes. Kusha, His Grace Sukade Prabhu, please, you can ask your question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Harvo? Kusha Prabhu?
No,
it's not Kusha. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much for the wonderful class. I have a question in regards to one part during the lecture. You made mention of when devotee grihastas and everything, when they read, or one part being more spiritual than the other one, and hence there's the tendency for the one that is more spiritual to look down on the one that is not so spiritual, and kind of like tends to force his or her own perception on the other part that is not so spiritual. But my question is, how do we balance between psychological problems and understanding it from a spiritual perspective? Because, you know, there's so many people that get into Grihastha life, or so many people that come into our Krishna conscious movement, that from their childhood, we do understand that they do have some psychological problems. And based on these psychological problems, when they read, you know, like even if it might have been explained to them in a proper way, or they have heard from the right source, but when they individually read, because of the psychological problem that is naturally there in them, they tend to come to a certain agreement or certain understanding based on what they read. And based on that, they act and they behave with wife, children, or even other devotees in general outside, based on that psychological thing that is there in between. So how do we balance this, or how do we come to a point whereby we're able to separate, okay, this is a psychological problem and this is a spiritual problem? How do we come to that point of separating these two and not mixing them together? This is my question, Mata. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's such a beautiful question. Yeah, it's so full. I also want to request some of the Matajis to have some questions, even if there may be, just basic question, please. It doesn't have to relate to the verse or anything. Just to hear the voices. So much I want to hear your voices. The ladies, the Matajis, the Prabhus, the Vaishnavis. Okay, so Prabhu, do you want to? Sorry, you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So psychology versus spirituality. What's the happy in between? How do we happily join hands? First of all, when we talk about psychology, from what I'm hearing, your question, it sounds like you are identifying psychology with material conditioning in terms of a person's material conditioning from childhood and how they may have developed that material conditioning based on their environment, based on their childhood upbringing, and based on what they may have learned as they grew older. And so we develop that mental construct based on those factors. Now, definitely two people can come together with two different mental constructs, because that's material energy, right? Material nature impacts us in terms of our minds in different ways. So the first principle in Grihastha life that's very important is that to remember that we're in this together. We're in this together. And as we have that principle, a guiding principle in our life, we will understand that, yes, we will have different mental constructs. And as far as psychology, as far as a person's psychological understanding or their psychological understanding based on their material conditioning, that could be different for husband and wife. If one person is more absorbed in following Guru Sadhu Sastra, let's say, they take that more as the way that they construct their minds. It's through that medium, Guru Sadhu Sastra, and that is the medium for anyone that's seeking to be a transcendentalist. So that person then understands, well, I am like a guide. I am here to assist. This other person that may not quite yet have that foundational understanding of Guru Sadhu Sastra as a guide in their life. Now that requires a lot of compassion, a lot of care, a lot of love. It's just like if you have children and you have one child that's born deformed or have some condition, some condition. You don't just say, I don't care about this child. I don't take care of this child. Actually, in most cases, we give more attention to that child. We give more care to that child if the child has some deficiency of some sort, whatever that might be, whether it's physical or emotional. So if a person is guided by still being guided by their emotional, mental conditioning, that construct, their psychological construct, then the other person has the responsibility to assist, to be more caring. Then that's on that other person to take responsibility to develop more care, more affection, more understanding, to be able to kind of learn, okay, this person, their mindset is more from a psychological perspective. How can I engage that mindset in Krishna consciousness? Because you see, Krishna consciousness includes everything. Krishna consciousness includes psychology. So then we use the Krishna conscious psychology. Yeah, so we try to understand what is the needs of this person. Why are they perhaps, maybe they have some need that I might not be aware of. Why they may stay in that lane of just wanting to fulfill their psychological needs, right? So we got to go in their lane to find out what is it that's causing them to have this, to stay fixed in that psychological mindset. Now, as devotees in general, you know, the tendency is we show more affection and care to people like that are strangers. We, in the sense that, you know, we never met them. You know, we go out on book distribution, you know, we distribute prasadam. We can show oftentimes more affection, more care for these persons than we do for those persons that are within our immediate, you know, our immediate, like, a vicinity, or our immediate care, you know, like people that are put right in our midst for us to care for. The tendency is we have more expectations from those persons that we are to directly care for than we do with the people that that perhaps we're trying to bring to Krishna consciousness, which is in some ways that's a little bit normal and natural. However, the tendency is once we bring people to Krishna consciousness, then what we tend to do is we tend to impose a Krishna conscious lifestyle on them in ways that they may not yet be ready. You know, they may have had that first attraction to Krishna, which is always, Krishna is so beautiful that everybody gets that first attraction. When they come, that's when they really need nurturing. That's when they really need caring. The tendency is we often, when somebody is already in devotional service, we tend to not value the nurturing and care for those persons than we do with people that, you know, we're just, and maybe that's because we're just meeting people. When we meet people, we might think, oh, I never have to see them again. I'm giving them a book and okay, you know, give them a book and somebody else will meet them at some point in time. But I remember in the early days being in Ghana and being in Nigeria, when devotees would come, you know, many were Christians, many. So you can say, I mean, just in terms of psychology, their psychology was constructed in Christianity, and they were dedicated to Christianity, most. What we found that the way that many of the devotees, many became devotees. Many are now gurus, like most of the gurus now, right? The way that happened is because when we gave a book, we followed up on them. We nurtured them. They came to the temple and we spent time with them. We developed, you know, where they were. We learned Christianity with them. We spoke Christianity with them. We went to places that were Christian places with them. We let them know that they were valuable, not just Christians, but Muslims. I tell this story often. As I traveled around Nigeria in a van, not knowing where I was going to sleep, what was going to happen the next day, just because we were distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. We had a Muslim driver, and Tahiro Prabhu. And, you know, every day he would chant his 99 names of Allah. We would chant Hare Krishna, and it was fine. It was wonderful. It was not a problem. I mean, you know, we just live like that on the road for months. So it's kind of, yes, people do have different psychological construct. Yes, we will have differences in Grihastha relationships. Yes, we will need to make extra endeavor in most cases. Yes, that is the beauty. That is the beauty of offering everything to Krishna. When we are able to do that, then we are pleasing Srila Prabhupada, because that's what Srila Prabhupada did. We're pleasing our guru. That's what they did. That's what Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj did. Came to Africa, you know, with Brahmananda Prabhu. I mean, Kavichandra Maharaj, you know, they all have their different styles, their different ways, the different, how they try to bring people to Krishna consciousness. However, the primary foundational understanding is to give people care, regardless of what their mental construct may be. Yeah, we're products of Kali Yuga. Our mental constructs are, for many people, it's just kind of still animalistic in many ways. So we're those persons that are getting a taste for Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, they're very blessed. And so they have the greatest opportunity because they've been given the best gift ever to be able to share that and help another person. And especially, it's not an accident that Krishna arranged for somebody to be our partner. That's not an accident. That person, it's to teach us something, and we're to teach them something. We're to learn from each other. Okay.
You said it all.
Sorry. I hope that's okay, Prabhu. It's such a brilliant question.
It was.
Yeah, we can do a whole workshop on that question. Seriously.
Thank you.
So we have Ujeshwari Mataji.
May I please just offer my obeisance to His Holiness? May we offer obeisance to His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj? We see that he's walking around.
He's walking out of the room.
Yeah, he's walking out of the room. We know that his health is not always so well, so this Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, we just want to offer obeisance to you. Vachakalpa, Dhruva Shakri Pasandubhya, Vachapatitanam Pavane, Vaishnavi Namo Namaha. Haribol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. I don't know, he's in his bhav. This okay.
It's good, right? Okay. Okay, should we, you want to take Mataji's question?
Yes.
Okay, Ujeshwari Mataji, please, you can unmute yourself and ask Mataji a question.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you for coming to the platform.
Yes.
I'm so happy to see both of you, because just the way you are sitting down there is preaching on its own, especially to we who are in family household life. Just seeing the two of you. But I must say, Mother, you are just looking like brother and sister. Two of your faces is just the same thing. Thank you so much, Madam. I have two questions. I will take them one at a time. Number one is, in this very topic that we are discussing now, you have so many God children, like girls and boys. What if in a situation where the person's condition has gone beyond, far away, that he has becoming to associate with other people, like eating meat, moving with other people out there, and he doesn't want to hear anything about Krishna anymore? You see, that one has gone down too far away. So in that situation, what do you do, Mother?
Hare Krishna, Ujeshwari.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you so much for blessing us with a question. Thank you very much. Yeah. Ujeshwari, in my own personal life, my son, I have a son, and I have a son and a daughter. We have three children. And so, so my son, he became involved in drugs, taking drugs, and it was devastating. It was very devastating. And once I was in Mumbai, and I had a dream that he died. He called me. He had called, or I called him. I think I called him to let him know. I said, I dreamt you left your body and that you were a ghost. And he was kind of stunned. He was kind of shocked, that I was calling him from India to let him know that. And then, he also was he went to the military to try to get his life together. But even in the military, there's drugs everywhere. So he didn't get away from it. So I just knew, and I accepted. Krishna, this boy is going to die, and I'm just offering him to you. Please give him a better life, next life. Well, what happened, Mother, is by me just always being caring with him, even with his drug habit. I just still always maintain, keep in contact with him, just trying. One time he went AWOL, me and Ekavir Prabhu, we had to take him back to the base. There was just so many things that he was doing. And to make a very long story short, I can tell you, today, that boy is taking my classes. He's a physician assistant. He's doing his
goodness.
He's doing his PhD.
Yeah.
And he takes my classes. So offer him to Krishna. He belongs to Krishna. He's not ours anyway. These children, they're not really ours, not really. We're here to caretake them. And we can only caretake them the best way we know how.
Yes.
The best way you know how as a mother, I am sure, is to give him your love and to have that expectation that you want him to be a devotee, of course. However, that cannot be forced. Even Krishna don't force us. Krishna gives us free will. Krishna gives us free will. However, as much as you can, just let him know, send him love. You don't have to agree with him. I never agreed with my son. He's just being crazy. He's just totally influenced by material energy, totally. And now he's just a totally different person. And it took like 20 something years. So so things happen in Krishna in Krishna's timing, not our timing. So please just send him love. Let him know, I don't agree with what you're doing. However, this is your choice. The best I can do is pray. And prayers, they're powerful. Prayers are powerful. I just prayed for that boy. I remember when my Guru Maharaj was leaving his body, when Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was leaving his body, he told me, he said, I'm leaving. You can go and be with your son. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna go be with him. He's crazy. I will love though. I will give him love, So my Guru Maharaj laughed. This was just like not too long before he left. He laughed and he said, Krishna, Srila Prabhupada see that you're very loyal. And that was important for me to be loyal to Srila Prabhupada, to be loyal to Krishna. That was important. And the importance of that is I see the reciprocation now later that my son, in his timing, now he's like, he just called me 2 days ago and it's just like beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And whenever he has a problem, he calls me, whenever. Now he doesn't have a relationship. He's scared of relationships, blah, blah, blah. He's scared of everything now. And he calls me, Mom, I'm thinking maybe this, that, the other thing. So just pray and love him.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
And your second question.
Thank you so much. And my second is also around the same problem, but while you are praying, talking to Krishna about them, because they are no longer around you. They are all grown up and they're on their own. You are still communicating, even though they don't want to hear Krishna. I try to minimize that. But while you are chanting, sometimes your mind will stray away to those problems. So how can you work on them so that you too will not be carried away? Because if your mind is not in your japa, is not in your reading and meditation, sometimes it will go to those things, especially we mothers. So I don't want all this to affect my japa or my own. Like a struggle, mother. It's like a lose in that struggle. So what is your?
Yes, I will ask Peter.
the actual point that Rajalila made, the last point, the prayer, intercessory prayer, that's the concept of praying for someone else. That's very, very powerful. When you're actually when we're actually chanting japa, we understand that, as Arjuna expressed, how can you actually control the mind? It's more difficult to control than the wind. It goes in different ways. And so not only do we pray for others, but we can pray for our own selves. That Krishna, please help me. Not only help them, but please help me. Please pull my mind back to your lotus feet. You know, please pull my mind back to your lotus feet, Madhusana. Please slay this particular demon. Please help them and pull my mind back to your lotus feet in the form of the holy name. And Sri Namaprabhu is a person.
Yeah.
You know, Krishna has manifested in the form of his holy name. He's there. He's present. As we chant, it's not that he's present in the name, but he is the holy name. And so by praying to him in the mood of that he's present there, that he's a person, and then Krishna will pull our mind back. And also, in due course of time, will also assist this particular person. Each and every devotee has their own free will, and we understand that everyone has to fly their own plane.
Yeah.
And I remember one time when Bhakti Charu, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he came to see us at the Institute, and one devotee asked a question that was similar to this. And he was expressing that, each and every devotee has their own particular relationship with Krishna and their own process in which Krishna works with them to bring them back to his lotus feet. And the only thing that we can actually do is pray for them and be loving and caring for them and be an example in Krishna consciousness. So the stronger that we become attached to, the holy name, the more we become attached to the service of the different devotees, that also has an effect on, our family members. Krishna expresses that, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati talked about that when one engages in the process of devotional service, even as a neophyte, it affects seven generations. And so, the more we actually engage in the process of devotional service, it actually has an effect subtly on our family members.
I also want to share a really nice tool, Mataji, that just really quickly, a tool that can be helpful. Before you start your japa,
Okay.
if you can write between 5 and 10 things that you are grateful for in this situation, my child is, doing whatever they're doing, I'm grateful because this is helping me to myself take more shelter of Krishna. I'm grateful because this is helping me to appreciate the devotees more. This is helpful because I'm thinking about how to help him. Actually, my mind is just really on him in terms of him coming closer to Krishna. So I'm grateful and I'm thinking about how he can come closer to Krishna. I am grateful that he can get it out of his system. Krishna, help him to get it out of his system as quick as possible, dear Lord, I'm grateful that somehow I can chant the holy name. Somehow Krishna has given me that blessing, that benediction to chant the holy name, and he will benefit. He will benefit from that. I am grateful that somehow, even though he's out in this crazy world, dear Lord, that he still can connect with me, his mom, and that I am a devotee. So that's 6 already. So just Write 10 things you're grateful for before you start your japa. That will calm the mind.
Hare
Okay?
Krishna. Thank you, Mother.
That's a really good
Thank you,
point.
Prabhuji. I appreciate.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you so
Krishna.
much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji and Prabhuji. We have one question in the chat room. I don't know whether you want to read or you want me to read it to you.
You please read, Prabhu.
Okay, Grace Radhakun Mataji, she's writing. Hare Krishna, first of all, I want to thank both of you so much for taking the time to educate us on important topics like this. What exactly can I do on my part, a wife, to inspire and encourage my husband furthermore in Krishna consciousness?
What can you do to inspire your husband in Krishna consciousness? That's a wonderful question. Well, one thing that we can inspire one by being a greater example of Krishna consciousness and being having the mood and cultivating the mood of the servant of the servant. One thing in the Grihastha ashram, and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj he had these four different points in community building. And the Grihastha ashram is a community. It's a very the microcosm of the community, and then you have your external community, macrocosm, the larger community. So in our inner circle, our Grihastha ashram, we actually want to see this person that is in our midst as very, very important to Krishna and being very important to the spiritual master. And we want that person to become the best devotee that they can actually become. And how do we actually do that? By serving them, by becoming the best devotee that we can become. By the nature of our example, then that has a positive influence on our environment and has a positive influence on our spouse. There was this Christian minister. She actually, at this point, she wasn't a minister, but she would go to church every Sunday. And when she come back from church, her husband would have the front door locked, and she had to sit out on the porch. She couldn't get into the house. And so she'd sit out there and she'd have a Bible and she would read. And then eventually when her husband decided that he wanted to open the door, he would come and open the door. And when he opened the door, she wouldn't get angry at him. She would say, "Thank you for coming in and opening the door and allowing me some time to sit quietly and read my Bible. And what do you want for breakfast? Let me cook you something for breakfast." And then she cooked something. And he continued to do that. Every Sunday, he would do that until the point where, I guess he said, wow, I can't affect her in this particular way. She was just being an example of, that which she preaches, being a servant of her husband, servant of the servant. And she tells a story, and her husband eventually became one of the more prominent evangelical pastors in North America. So by the nature of her example, it inspired him to become the best Christian that he could actually become. And so therefore, by us actually practicing the process of devotional service and lovingly engaging in the service and encouraging each other, that has the greatest impact on someone else,
I also want to share, thanks. I want to share in our life as Grihastas, what I find that has helped our spiritual life as well as our Grihastha life, just our Grihastha life is an offering to Krishna, is to appreciate our spouse. You know, for example, Ekavir Prabhu is not one to give class, and he's doing it more now. However, because he agreed to do the class with me today, so I'm going to appreciate him. I'll share with you 2 ways we can do appreciation. So this is one way. Okay. So they can see.
Okay.
So this is one way. Ekavir Prabhu, I really appreciate that you this morning agreed to give the class. You agreed last night. I really appreciate you agreed to give the class with me, and you came to give the class. Okay, so that's an appreciation. That's an appreciation that most of us do. Here's the second appreciation that really works in our family. Second appreciation. Ekavir Prabhu, I so much appreciate that you agreed to do the class with me this morning. By you being here giving the class, it really gave me a time to think about what we're sharing. And it really inspired me to be able to hear the points you made and to be able to reflect on those points. Really, your being here but giving this class, it has helped me so much in just me reflecting on this verse deeper. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay?
And then my response would be, I appreciate you appreciating me.
So we spend a lot of time appreciating because we know that we're fallen, you know, we know that. We're not on the Paramahamsa stage where we're already self-satisfied, you know, I'm satisfied. We know that we need to be encouraged. Right? And so we don't have a spiritual master physically anymore to encourage us which is what he always did. He always encouraged us in our Grihastha life. He's not here. So we have to be responsible in our Grihastha life. So we encourage each other. We're not encouraging each other for our enjoyment, for our sense gratification. Oh, Ekavira, I really appreciate you doing this because, you know, you made me blah, whatever. It's not for me, you know, it's because we are serving our guru and we're serving the devotees and we're trying to find ways where we can be enlivened in Krishna consciousness. So really, we are appreciating each other, and we spend our life. You know, we've been married almost 30 years. We spend our life being appreciative because we understand how important it is for us to acknowledge, you know, that Krishna is there within us, and acknowledge that we're all trying to do our best. Sometimes our best might not be good enough for the other person. We can appreciate that. You know what? I would probably like you to do more XYZ. However, I so much appreciate that you do ABC because that helps me. So yeah, we may have expectations. We may have, you know, other aspirations that we would like our mates to be, but we're not perfect. We're aspiring. And by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of the devotees, by the mercy of all of you, we're in a spiritual community. You all help us. You help us, really, to be strong in our devotional life. So Grihasthas need to take shelter of other devotees. There was a time when, you know, every Grihastha goes through this. We go through a period where we're not understanding each other so much, you know, like, you know, we have different agendas. We have different strategies in how we deal with our agendas. So we went through a period like that. And we have very close devotee friends that we would go to and we would share with them, hey, we're going through this, you know, and they are able to let us look at things from a different perspective. So every Grihastha need to have Grihasthas that they trust, that they can go and open their hearts to and say and share some of the challenges that they're facing. Because Grihastha life also means challenges, and we get to the other side, we're like, yay, we passed that, yay, we did that, yay, you know, we moved through that, you know. And so this is Grihastha life. It's never stagnant, never, ever, ever, ever stagnant.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mataji and Prabhuji. Really love this. And this was the last talk you gave about this appreciation. I think I really need to imbibe that so much in my life. I really need it because I know that my wife physically will always tell me, oh, why can't you just appreciate this? So I really need it. Because I'm so transcendental thinking that, okay, you should be transcendental, not putting this into practice. So I think I really need to imbibe this. And I have a question. So one of my question is a very, very deep one. And I know many devotees, they have challenge with this question also. Because many years I've been thinking about this, and somehow or the other I'll be able to apply my own intelligence to do that in a way that I'm not worried about it again. So the question is that we know that we know the goal in Krishna consciousness as a Grihastha, that as a Grihastha, I remember many times when I wanted to marry, my Guru Maharaj told me, because you are married doesn't mean you have access to sex. So he told me very, very frankly, he told me that, and I had it, but I was thinking about it. I could not understand it very deeply. Then I asked many devotees about this question also, because we know that as a devotee, we are of different calibers. There are devotees who are on a Brahminical level. They can they can be satisfied with studying the scripture, practicing spiritual life without, satisfying their material bodily needs in terms of sexual urge and all this. They can be so absorbed. And there are some devotees that are not up to that platform. Either the Prabhu is so transcendental or Brahminical inspired that he can stay away from it, and maybe the Mataji may not be up to that platform, or the Mataji is so transcendental that he's so absorbed in spiritual life that he doesn't care about the bodily need, and the Prabhuji is not up to that platform. So my question is, this is very important in the Vaishnava community. We know the goal. The goal is to be free from, we call it illicit sex, if it's not for giving birth to children. But how can devotees satisfy their bodily need without, because sometimes we see that this also brings problem in the relationship between the devotee. When the Prabhu is so transcendental, then the Mataji is committing illicit sex outside, and that brings about breakage in marriage and so many things. So how can we, I know you understand what I'm trying to say, and how can we devotees try to understand this and apply it into our spiritual life without breaking the principle according to proper standard of no sex or one sex once in a month and days? How can we really apply this spiritually, practically?
So this is, we call in the Grihastha ashram the hot potato question. It's like we're gonna go into touching a hot potato, right? Or like a hot plantain. When you just take the plantain off the fire, and you're gonna go like, okay, I'm gonna eat this Kaliwali right now. It's hot. Okay, that's what this question is. So I'm gonna first let him answer.
Go ahead.
Okay, so he's turning it back to me. Okay, so this hot potato question, I really appreciate, Kavikarnapur Prabhu, how you share that there is, we know the goal, right? We know the goal, and we never ever want to dismiss the goal. So the goal is for Grihasthas to be able to engage sex life, which Krishna says is non-different. Krishna says, I am that sex life, right? In Bhagavad Gita. According to religious principles. What are the religious principles? What is Dharma? To be able to engage sex life, to have children, procreate, to have God-conscious children, Krishna-conscious children. Yes. So that is the goal. And Grihasthas, every ashram, it's not just Grihasthas. Believe me, there are many people in the Brahmacharya ashram that needs to understand this. So this is everywhere, to understand this principle, because unfortunately or fortunately, there are brahmacharis that are brahmacharis that may be aspiring to be brahmacharis that are also plagued with this question. So, so first, we want to keep that as the standard. Now, I always say that, there are cultures of people that have different perception about sex. When you come to Krishna consciousness, right, it's kind of like, I just want to show. So the goal is here, and somebody might be coming in. The goal is, they know that's the goal, but then they might be here, right, in terms of the culture. And so it may take some time for someone to get to there. With guidance, with mentorship, with remembrance of our goal, eventually, a person that's a sincere practitioner, someone that's sincerely wanting to connect with Krishna, wanting to learn to love Krishna, will make that, will go there. They will start going there. They won't be like, and then back, and then back. That happens, right? You're moving there, but then the body, the mind, there's an interruption. Now, physically, a person's body, like you said, some people's body from previous life may not have so much attraction for sex, even if they're born in a culture. Sometimes people are born in a certain culture where sex life is not a big deal. Like, in my own life, I actually was born in Central America, Belize. And so, my whole understanding about sex is totally different than somebody that's born in a more puritanical kind of culture, right? So the physical body, I believe, when somebody is more youthful, there's more demand. The mind is a little more difficult to control. As somebody's physical body gets older, I do believe if someone stays with the practice of Krishna consciousness, it becomes easier to control the mind, which means it becomes easier to control the sex desire. Sex desire is not so important, especially if somebody's engaged in services that they really enjoy, then that's not so important. But still, we hear even great rishis can fall to sex life, right? So still, we need to be very cautious, very careful. So how do we monitor that? I had several conversations with different gurus about this. I always say, what does your guru say? Because, gurus have different approaches about this. I have heard gurus say, I don't go into people's bedrooms. That's their personal private life. I have heard gurus, say, I just let them focus on the goal, and I don't talk about it. I don't go there at all. I give them the goal. I don't want to discuss it. For that, I have mentors that can deal with that. I say that each person needs to take responsibility for their own life under the guidance of understanding what the ultimate principle is. And that a person needs to always be in prayer, because material energy is so difficult. It's so very difficult. As a mentor myself, I have empathy for young people today, because I understand how pulling that sex energy can be. And so I try to encourage young people to know the goal and to really aspire as they're growing in Krishna consciousness, to learn to engage sex life in Krishna consciousness. It's a hot potato question, seriously. And again, my answer to that is, there is the goal and there's the individual. And the individual needs to really explore within themselves how they're growing in their love for Krishna. If we're wanting to really love Krishna, then ultimately we will be, our taste for things that isn't fully developing love for Krishna will start minimizing. And it'll happen by the grace of the Guru, by the grace of the mercy of the devotees. It will happen. It will happen, for sure.
And one of the considerations, it's important to have in our devotee association, the mood of non-judgmental association. Because as we understand the actual goal, and this not only applies to, sex life, but every aspect of, the process of devotional service and where we are in our own individual unfoldment in this process, a mood of non-judgmental association. Because otherwise what we have is persons struggle with this and with whatever they're struggling with, and remain in secret and develop a mood of insincerity, hiding, because if they're actually seek the guidance or assistance of other persons in the community, they're ostracized or criticized or placed in a certain category, or a label is placed on their head, fallen soul, And so, and that's something that is, there were studies done on your esoteric religious processes or systems. And it's during this survey, it indicated those persons involved in more esoteric processes tend to have be less compassionate, or at least seen in that light. And that's the tendency that, we are actually, less fallen. We are more advanced, ahankara. We are, or at least we want to portray this to the outer environment. And so it's important to have a mood in our communities, in which we can actually genuinely open up to each other and with our struggles, and be given loving encouragement. And we talked about that as far as the children. That not only applies to children, that applies to all of us. We all need this encouragement, appreciation, and we need examples in our lives.
And yes, and again, not to be phalu vairagya, right? Not to practice phalu vairagya, which means that we are being dishonest in the practice of Krishna consciousness. We're trying to fool everybody that we're very advanced, when in fact we're at home asking our wife to have, sexual relation, or a wife asking us to have sexual relation, whatever it might be, because it's not just the men, it's the women also, right? Yeah. So it's both. So we don't want to be pretenders on the path of Krishna consciousness. We want to be honest practitioners, and we want to engage in Yukta Vairagya, offering to Krishna. And praying. I cannot emphasize prayer enough to help us to get strength, to get courage. Sex requires, to become free from sex requires courage. And it requires help and courage. Because that energy is just so powerful. It's just so powerful. And that energy, though, can be dovetailed into, as I said, appreciation. It can be dovetailed, into encouragement. It can be dovetailed into acceptance. It can be dovetailed. So there's ways that we can, somehow transform that energy in practical ways.
And that was the next point that I wanted to make in regards to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mataji and Prabhuji, for the way you handled the question. I asked this question also because I'm in one group, my college friends group, where normally we discuss different topic. So there's one guy there who is a pastor, and when we were discussing about this marriage, sex in the marriage, and now I was bringing a Krishna conscious perspective of as how we do the activity in the Krishna consciousness once in a month, or no at all if you are not having children. And all of them like, what is going on? If you are legitimately married, it's not a sin. God never says it's a sin. And somebody was even asking the pastor, so the pastor was even saying that if before going to the church on Sunday, your wife asks you for it and you deny it, God is going to be angry with you, because throughout your pastoring in the church, you are going to be thinking of how you displease your wife. So this was the point of the discussion. So I said, let me ask here, although in the Islam and Christendom, they don't believe having sex with their wife anytime, anywhere, whatever, they don't consider it to be sin. But we Krishna consciousness, we consider it to be, illicit sex, sin. And I know many devotees also, they suffer a lot from this, because when you know something and you go against it, you have some mental torture. And so your explanation is very, very important for us. Thank you very much, Ma. And thank you very much.
I think
this particular this point in regards to sex life, everyone is actually looking for a deeper connection with ultimately with Krishna. Everyone is looking for loving affection. And because of our different forms of conditioning, sex is used as a strategy to actually facilitate these emotional needs. And so therefore, if we have the understanding of the more subtle needs that are there, the need for, as Rajalila said, appreciation, the need for, intimacy. That's sex life is used as a strategy to develop intimacy. However, there's so many other ways that we can have intimacy with each other without the actual, performance of sex. You can have intimacy with a person, in your, brahmacharya ashram. You can have intimacy with, your friends and associates, your peers. Intimacy, in the material world, we tend to codify that and label it with, lust, but it doesn't have the lust factor. Intimacy is so much deeper than that. Lust is lust, and intimacy is just closeness without the lust. And so when we have that understanding and we practice the more subtle levels of intimacy by giving each other appreciation, by giving each other, expressing gratitude, then we find that we have less of a desire for the physical expression through sex life. Rupa Goswami expressed that this mood of gratitude. Gratitude is actually the transcendental quality of the mind. And so the more we express gratitude and appreciation for everything that Krishna has given us, including the association of devotees, the more we express appreciation and gratitude to those devotees that are in our association, the more we connect with our actual person, the person who we are, our transcendental qualities. And that is linked through expressions of the transcendental quality of the mind, gratitude.
One last point, we don't want to be the kind of grihastas that are preaching to the Christians or the Muslims about their engagement in sex life. And we're telling them, whatever our principles are, whatever our goals are, but yet we're not doing it. That is totally false. Totally false. Yeah. To be able, and somehow or other, because we all want to look good, we have a tendency to do that. To make ourselves look like we're better than the Christians or we're better than the Muslims, when many cases, grihastas are just being simply dishonest. So we want to avoid that we want to avoid that. At least we want to be aware if we're being dishonest, like, oh, Krishna, please help me. Please help me. Please don't let me be dishonest. I know I am. I know I'm product of Kali Yuga. I know I'm fallen. Please help me. Very well.
Thank you very much, Ma. We are very grateful for your contribution, and I think we want you to come again and again with Prabhu on this platform, so that And I think we should pick more of this this topic, because there are so many young couples here and there in Africa that need guidance, you know, so that, you know, we can follow the footsteps of both of you, because we know what is obtainable in the past is gone in West Africa, and we want to move forward from there. We don't want to go back to that. So thank you very much, man, and thank you very much, Prabhu.
And we just want to close for our young folks, for our young people. We want to let you know, look, Grihasta life, it can work.
Every day.
So we want the body to please unmute themselves. Let us appreciate Prabhuji and Mataji by loudly chanting wonderful Hare Krishna mantra from our hearts. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Raj. Thank you, Prabhuji. Haribo. Thank you so much.